thank you for being here and not in the other talk. That's great. Thank you. I want to tell you a story about how do we do automated update management with Renovate in our company. But first, a question. Who here has heard of Heartbleed or Log4Shell? Raise your hands, please. Ah, yeah, most people. That's great. And who here knew at the time when these vulnerabilities were published where you used these vulnerable dependencies in your code? Not many people, I think. To be expected, I didn't know either. So yeah. So how does one normally get notified about these kinds of huge security issues? Probably by visiting some tech site like Heise, Hacker News or something, and when you get a big breaking news like the world will go down, everything's broken, you need to patch now, right now, and it's really bad, everything's bad. And you get these vulnerabilities, they got their own logo, they get their own website, and it's like a big business there. So, okay, I get notified what I'm going to do there then. Of course, I'll check my code, search frantically where all these vulnerable dependencies get used in my code, so I can patch them. And of course, then I need to check my dependencies too, where the vulnerable dependencies get used, and so on. And then I ask myself, what happens if I update these dependencies? What will break? Can I deploy this? Can I test this? I don't know. And this gets really messy, and it's like a situation I want to avoid. And that's why we try to use Renovate to mitigate this problem. Normally, or nowadays, to find out where these vulnerable dependencies get used, the cool kids use SBOMs or software bill of materials. So, but yeah, I'm not a cool kid. I don't use SBOMs because I just skip directly to the patching part. And yeah, that's what we use Renovate for. So, but first, who's me? Who's we? My name is Sebastian Gumprich. I work at Deutsche Telekom MMS GmbH in Dresden, and I'm an IT architect there. And together with many teams, we work for many different clients in all kinds of markets and sectors. And my teams use many different programming languages, like Java, PHP, Node, Rust, all the major programming languages. And we also use many different infrastructure toolings like Kubernetes, Ansible, Helm, Terraform, all the major stuff is there. We use it. And what all these tools and programming languages have in common is that most of them have some kind of dependency management system, like npm's package.json, Helm charts, and so on. So, and of course we use all these dependencies en masse, and we try to keep these dependencies in sync between all our different customer projects. And doing this manually is totally impossible. So we try to do this with Renovate. And what is Renovate? Renovate's punchline is automated security updates, multi-platform and multi-language. And that's basically what it does. Renovate creates pull requests or merge requests for you in your repositories. And this totally automated. Renovate also automatically finds these package files, like a package.json, a requirements text file, or these different POM XML and so on. It finds these automatically and then updates the software dependencies inside them. And at the same time, it's totally customizable. You can change every part of the configuration of Renovate using a configuration file inside your repository. And best part, it's open source. It's licensed under the AGPL license, so you can self-host it like we do, or you can, of course, use it as a GitHub app or use the managed service by the developers of Renovate. So, like I said, our company uses all kinds of programming languages and tools, and so far, Renovate supports all of them. You got a nice little list here, what's supported, and you can see we have Golang there, Java, JavaScript, Node.js, PHP, Python, everything is there. Everything normal people in normal jobs use. Same for infrastructure tooling. Ansible is supported, Terraform, GitLab, pipelines, GitHub Actions, Helm, Helm charts, Helm values, TerraGrant, and so on. All the major tooling. And like I said, Renovate creates merge requests for you, so you need some kind of central Git platform. And where the major ones, GitHub, GitLab, even Bitbucket are supported, if anyone has to use it. So yeah, you can use it with Renovate. And even the smaller one, Azure DevOps, AWS Code Commit, and Git and all of its forks, and yeah, they're all supported. So how do you actually use Renovate? Assuming you use GitHub or you already got Renovate configured in your own internal GitLab instance, all you have to do is create a basic configuration file in your repository, and it looks like this. It's just some simple JSON file. Without the simple, it's a JSON file. You just define a schema there that's always the same, and then you say Renovate what kind of configuration you want to use, and that's just some defaults. So, and when you do this, when you create this basic configuration file, Renovate will start working on your repository and updating your dependencies with merge requests. Alongside it, you also get some nice little dependency dashboard. You don't have to read everything, just a simple issue from GitLab, where Renovate will tell you what the current status with Renovate itself is. So if it's got some kind of problems like configuration errors, or dependency lookup failures. It also tells you what merge requests are currently open, so you can get a nice list, and what dependencies Renovate detected in your pipeline, in your repository. So, like for example, Ansible Galaxy, a Docker file, GitLab CI configuration, pip requirements, and so on. Yeah, I told you, Renovate is totally configurable with this configuration file I showed you, and I want to tell you some nice features about Renovate that we use in our company and deemed very good. First one is auto-merging. Like I said, Renovate creates merge requests for you, and sometimes you just want to merge these merge requests automatically. And to do this, you define a so-called package rule, and this package rule basically defines if the update type of this dependency you want to Renovate wants to update is a minor or a patch update, like semantic versioning updates, then it just says auto-merge true, and then these merge requests will get automatically merged without having you to do anything. And for like simple patch updates, it works most of the time. You can also disable updates completely. For example, if you don't want to update like ESLint or some other packages you know that you need in this particular version, you just tell Renovate again with a package rule that it should not update these kind of package names that get matched in this list. You also can ignore complete paths in your repository, so Renovate won't check these paths for dependency files, and then they won't get any updates at all. You also have a nice feature called group dependencies, and with this configuration, you can tell Renovate that it should group dependencies into one or more groups. For example, you can say that all updates that come from Ansible Galaxy, for example, will be merged into one group called external roles in this case. And what this does is it basically creates only one merge request with all the updates for all your roles instead of multiple updates with one for each dependency. So you can instead of working with multiple dozens of merge requests, you just have one, can check this, and then update all your dependencies at once. So that's a really nice feature. Renovate also supports private registry, so you can add your private Docker Hub mirror or your private Docker registry. Same for your private Git registries, Maven repositories, and all the other repositories you can somehow mirror or use internally. Renovate supports them all. So you can even update your own internal packages that you publish and use. So everything's supported. It's great. And the best part for me are schedules. You can define when Renovate should create merge requests for you. So, for example, if you want to work in your normal business hours from 8 to 5, and you don't want to get any merge requests there, so you don't get, so you can just concentrate on your work. And then you tell Renovate, here, use this schedule and only create a merge request after 10 p.m. and before 5 a.m. on every workday and on every weekend. And if you do this, you don't get any merge requests during the normal business hours and just afterwards, and then on the next morning you can just go ahead, check all your merge requests, merge them, and have secure updates, hopefully. So you got now these nice features. You know what Renovate is? Who uses it? Who wants to use it now? Everybody, right? You just raise your hands, it's okay. Thank you. Okay, well, yeah, not all of you, it's okay. In case when I showed Renovate to my teams, they were somewhat resistant, just like you are. After all, what Renovate did for them was create more work. Now they had to, when they want to use it, they had to configure Renovate, create the configuration file, and then check the resulting merge requests that Renovate created for you, test them, merge them, deploy them, and do all this without creating any new features or additional features for your customer. They just had updated dependencies. So yeah, the teams were resistant to use this because, yeah. So I still wanted them to use it, so I tried to spread the usage of it. And I did some things to do this. Mainly demos, demonstrations, how Renovate works, how it can be integrated in the repositories, what it then does, and so on. If I had more time, I would do it today, but yeah, I want to talk more and show less, so yeah. Demoing it for the teams somehow helped. I got some early initial adopters that used Renovate extensively for all their clients and all their projects, and I guess it worked great because I didn't hear from them anymore, and they're just using it and hopefully merging their merge requests. Other teams I needed to convince some more. So I just went ahead and configured Renovate for one of their projects. So I created the merge request to configure Renovate, got the team to approve the merge request, I merged it, and then the merge request started coming in to update their dependencies, and I checked these merge requests, tested them myself, got their approval again, and merged them. So then the teams only had to deploy the changed dependencies. So, and doing this, the team saw that it's not so much more work to do this, and they then started configuring Renovate for their other clients and projects. And yeah, so this helped. I also created some initial documentation for the teams. You can see here the table of contents from our conference page, where I defined how Renovate works, what kind of features it has, how to debug it, how to use it, and so on. And after the team started using Renovate, they even extended my documentation with other features, with more example configurations, and I really did not expect this, and I was really happy when they did this. It showed me that they use it and they care about it, and that was great. The last thing I did to spread the usage was to use the onboarding merge request, and that's basically a feature of Renovate that's included by default that creates a merge request for you that creates then the Renovate configuration file, like this, the basic configuration JSON file. And alongside this, you get a nice little overview what will then happen if you use Renovate. So they don't have to ask me, they just have to read the merge requests. And then Renovate will tell you what kind of package files it detected, like the pip requirements or a Docker file or something. And it also told you how it will be then running, and so how it's configured. For example, that it will only start updates once this onboarding merge request is merged, or that you get this dependency dashboard I showed you earlier, and some other things. And lastly, it also showed you what to expect, so what kind of merge requests Renovate will then create. So you get a nice, you can then expect to know what will happen. Yeah, and this again helped that some other teams used Renovate, and I think I got a pretty good the number of teams to use Renovate. And what then happened, of course, the problems started rolling in. When teams use it, they find some problems I didn't expect. And these problems basically boil down to two different kinds. One is syntax errors, and the second one are regular expressions, of course. And so let me tell you about the syntax errors first. I told you in the beginning, the configuration file is just a JSON file. You have to configure by hand. And who here likes configuring JSON files by hand? Everyone, yeah, I noticed. Ah, there's one person I saw. Yeah, I saw you. Yeah, nobody likes it. And why? Because it's JSON. You have to. Yeah, it's even worse than YAML. Hot take, I know. Yeah, you have to, for example, check that you don't add any trailing commas to your configuration. You can't add any comments into your code, and yeah, you have to know this, or otherwise you will get syntax errors. And with Renovate, these syntax errors are kind of messy because Renovate runs on a schedule and checks your code and your configuration periodically. So what happened was that the teams changed their configuration file to extend it or something, and then after some time, like minutes or even hours, they only got the response from Renovate that they had a syntax error and that it didn't work. And this is really unnerving because you have to wait to check if your configuration file is wrong, and yeah, that's not good. So I tried to fix this. First, with a simple GitLab CI pipeline. What Renovate does for you is it provides you a config validator. And with this config validator, you just give it your configuration file, and then Renovate tells you this configuration is valid or it isn't valid. So I put this in a simple GitLab pipeline that runs when this Renovate JSON file, the configuration file will change. And when this pipeline runs, checks the configuration, and if the configuration is invalid, the pipeline fails and the teams get notified about it. And if it isn't invalid, if it's valid, then everything's fine, pipeline is green, and the change was successful. And you can use this config validator, of course, locally. So I told the teams, just download Renovate, use this validator locally, and then you don't even need to commit, push the configuration, you can just check it locally. And of course, the next step is to use then Git pre-commit hooks. So you can't even forget to check your configuration file. It just happens automatically. So doing this helped tremendously. And the second thing that helped is JSON 5. It's like JSON 5 is an extension or next version, I don't really know, for the normal JSON syntax. And it has two things that helped us really much. One is it allows to use trailing commas. So that's not a syntax error anymore. And the second thing, you can use comments. And using comments is great because you can now document your code, and that's basically what it is. And yeah, this really helped that we don't have any syntax errors anymore. But I told you, we have still regular expressions. And there's this quote from Jamie Sawinski. Some people, when confronted with a problem, think, I know, I use regular expressions. Now we have two problems. And yeah, it's a famous quote, and it really shows why regular expressions are really great, and who doesn't love using them. And yeah, but why use Renovate? Why use regular expressions and Renovate at all? If Renovate, I told you, Renovate tries to automatically detect your package files, your package JSONs, POM XMLs, and so on. But sometimes it can't auto-detect them. Because, for example, if you want to update your Docker file, in your Docker file the from line, so you get the latest image of something, this works automatically if the file is called Docker file. But if it's, for example, called Docker file in all caps with a .template at the end, then Renovate won't know that this is a Docker file. So it won't update the from line inside this file. And to tell Renovate that this is indeed a Docker file, you have to check, you have to use regular expressions. And yeah, you can see the regular expression here. For people who are familiar with regular expressions, I guess it's easy. You can even extend them and use multiple regular expressions. The whole range is there. You can do everything there. So yeah, for people who are familiar with regex, who use them all the time, that's not a problem. But most of our teams, and I guess most of you, I think, don't use regular expressions on a daily basis. So yeah, we spent then multiple hours together with my teammates to debug these problems that you get with using your regular expressions. Renovate won't find a file you wanted to update. It won't find any file at all. You get all the errors. So, yeah. What did I do to help working with regular expressions? 2 things. First, thanks to JSON 5, I added comments to the regular expressions. Easy way. Mostly I just added a link to a regular expression visualizer that just shows you on what kind of parts the regex consists of, so the teams could then better grasp what the regex should do. Yeah, and this helped. Of course, we also added some more documentation, what we thought the regex should do, and maybe even what it did. Yeah, but it was still really hard. Regex is still hard for me and for other people. So, like I said, we spent hours debugging these regular expressions. And to debug this, with Renovate, it's totally easy. You just have to download the correct Docker image. Then you need to create a GitLab access token, so Renovate can download your repositories. Then you need to create a GitHub access token, so Renovate can check on GitHub for new updates of your software without getting rate limited. Then you need to use the correct configuration file without any syntax errors. Then you should probably use a dry run functionality, so you don't accidentally create any merge requests. And at least some time before, you couldn't use a fork, but I think it's possible now. So easy, right? It's totally fast to debug anything with Renovate. For people who do this often. For people who don't do this often, it's a real hassle because you have to download it, create some tokens, use configuration, and so on. And even though you can automate most of your stuff and properly document the rest of the stuff, it's still a hassle to do this for people who don't need to debug Renovate very often. So, together with a teammate, I created, again, a pipeline to debug these kinds of problems. And this is, again, just a GitLab CI pipeline where Renovate runs using the correct image with the GitHub and GitLab access tokens pre-configured and with a config file that doesn't have any syntax errors. So the people who want to debug don't have to remember to do all the stuff I showed you earlier. It just works. So they then just have to start the pipeline, enter a path to the repository they want to debug, and then Renovate will start running. And you then just have to check the output in the GitLab CI pipeline output, check for errors or why your regex didn't work, and hopefully you will then find your problem, can fix it, and then try again. Yeah. Last thing we did was use shareable config presets. So when one of my teams created these regular expressions that worked, what we did is we used this as a configuration preset that you can, it's just a Renovate configuration on the left side that you put somewhere in your repository, and then other people could include this configuration inside their Renovate configuration, so you only have to write it once and can use it everywhere. I think normal stuff, and yeah, you then just have to write it once, and like I said, it works everywhere. So, I have to talk faster. Yeah, so Renovate works now. We get merge requests. We have no more syntax errors, no regular expression problems, and we got many merge requests. So how do we test if these updates work? Manually, of course. Oh, there's a...
Run your normal tests, which you have.
Oh, that's great. Right, you run your normal tests that you have, of course. Everybody has normal tests that just run, probably. So, I don't know about you. We have, of course, for every piece of code, test coverage of 100%. It's great. Don't laugh, it's not funny. You can see an example here. We use Renovate for our Terraform code to update providers and modules and so on. And what we then do is we use our normal tests that just run automatically when Renovate creates a merge request. And then in this pipeline, a Terraform plan step will be running that just checks if your infrastructure changed or if it even ran at all. So yeah, and if there's no changes and everything works, you get a nice little green check mark. You can use it, and you can be reasonably sure that your update will work. And some teams even went so far to then automatically do a Terraform apply and merge this merge request after the tests succeeded. But that's a rather rare circumstance for us, so most people just manually check this and then merge it, and that's still fine for me. So, we got like 5 minutes left. I'm really fast today, that's great. Let me quickly talk to you about how we use Renovate as a service, because like I said in the beginning, it's licensed under AGPL, and we can self-host it, and as you probably guessed, we do self-host it for our internal GitLab instance. And doing this is pretty easy. You just need to create a, this time it's really easy. You need to create a new project in a GitLab instance, create again some tokens like we already did multiple times. Then we create a new GitLab CI pipeline where we include the upstream templates that the Renovate developers provide for us, so we don't even need to manually configure any pipelines. The people from Renovate just did that for us. We just use this template, and it's great. When I need to configure Renovate, don't make any errors. And lastly, I created a scheduled pipeline. So Renovate then runs in this scheduled pipeline, like I think every 2 hours or something, and checks all the repositories for updates. And when I initially configured this whole stuff, it worked great for the subset of repositories I tested it on, but then I started, of course, using it for all of the repositories, some hundreds of repositories, and then, of course, I got problems. Because the way Renovate then works is it first checks for all the repositories it has access to, and then just takes this list of repositories and works on one of the repositories, checks them out, check for a configuration file, check for updates, create merge requests, and so on. And doing this for hundreds of repositories is normally not really a problem, it just works. But when you run this in a scheduled pipeline, you, or at least we, have a timeout for the GitLab jobs. So they run normally for 1 hour, and after 1 hour they get killed because the job takes too long. So please don't read this code. Not because it's bad, because it's just code. Yeah, luckily someone already had this problem for us on the internet, that you need to basically run Renovate in parallel for all these hundreds of repositories. So one job won't get a timeout, but you can use multiple jobs that run Renovate in parallel on a number of repositories for your GitLab instance. And this is done all in code. And it basically just creates a list of all repositories and then divides the number of repositories in this list by the number of parallel jobs you want to run. And then you just start like 3 or 5 Renovate jobs, and not one job gets a timeout anymore, and it just works. Yeah, let me just skip this because I'm running out of time. One last interesting failure we had was when Renovate didn't run for like 2 weeks. And we didn't notice it. So we didn't get any updates for 2 weeks. And we only noticed it when one of my teammates said, "Where are my updates? I expect to get updates, but there are no updates." And when I checked, and what happened is that Upstream deprecated one of their GitLab CI templates I showed you, I didn't show you, I told you about earlier. And in deprecating these, they also changed the stage name in the GitLab pipeline. And what happens is when you change a stage name in a GitLab pipeline, and this stage name isn't defined anywhere, then the GitLab configuration is invalid. So it just won't work. And the next problem is, GitLab won't tell you this. It just will fail silently, and the GitLab CI jobs won't run anymore. And yeah, we didn't notice it. So, but when we eventually noticed, we just fixed the stage name, did a small postmortem on it, created some monitoring, and then it finally worked. And so far, it's working pretty good. We don't have any errors anymore, and we get nice little security updates. we hopefully don't have to be scared of Heartbleed or Log4Shell or any other soon-to-be announced CVEs. And that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for this introduction to Renovate. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes. Just ask a question.
Difference, or what's the difference to GitHub dependable?
So the question is if there is a difference, or what is the difference to GitHub dependable?
From the functionality, it's basically the same. You get this, you get the software updates. As far as I know, Dependabot is a is a closed source software, and you can only use it on GitHub. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But Renovate is open source. You can use it everywhere. You can self-host it, and yeah. But the functionality is basically the same.
Any more questions? Now's the time.
I'll be on the hallway too if anyone wants to. But yeah.
How much time do you need to implement the Renovate?
So the next question was how much time it needs to implement and maintain Renovate for your repositories?
That's a good question. The initial configuration is really easy, takes minutes. But when you have to configure it, and it can take some hours until you really finally get it the way you want it to run, because you have like these multiple hundreds of configuration options. You don't know really what you want at the beginning, and if you have a rather large project, you then get like multiple dozens or hundreds of merge requests, and you get overwhelmed by it, and so you need to then prevent this, and again you need a configuration for this, and yeah, and this takes place over the course of weeks and months, and so I can't really say how long it takes, but it does take time. Yeah.
Okay, if there are no more questions left to be answered, then please give it up once more for Sebastian.
Thank you.